Okay, looks like we're live. Hey guys, it's so great to have you here at the NFT Summit. How's everyone doing today?
Good to be here. Yeah, we're doing good.
So
Doing
today's
well.
talk,
Thanks for having us.
yeah, been a while. Where's everybody coming from in the world right now?
I'm out in Dubai.
Nice.
I've been here for a long time. There's a lot happening in crypto at the moment, so a lot of people are coming here. So it's quite cool.
Yeah, and I'm based out of New York City. Yeah, been here for a little bit as well, and just love watching the world sort of erupt. I think there's a little bit of murmurings around here, more so than before as it pertains to crypto, but sort of worldwide as well.
I love it. Yeah, I'm here. I'm in near Miami right now, about to attend the Bitcoin conference coming up. So it's we're like all corners of the world at the moment. I guess let's start off with just like going through a bit of our background. I don't know if we wanted to start, Saheer, just a bit about you and how you got into NFTs.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Saheer Mathrani. I work at Authentic Brands Group, leading up our blockchain and NFT group here. I've been sort of involved in the space on a personal level, I'd say, for the better part of the past 18 months to 2 years, but sort of at a professional level for the better part of the past 6 months, sort of when the world erupted into its NFT craze. Authentic Brands Group, which is an intellectual property brand management company, we're just very eager to sort of figure out how we could enter into the space. And I ended up being the person who knew the most about it at the company and have sort of been helping us set our agenda and initiatives for the coming weeks, months, and years to come.
Okay, and I'm Jawad Ashraf. I'm like a CTO and co-founder of Terra Virtua. So we're an NFT ecosystem. We started our journey in 2017, and it's like now only after 3 years, all of a sudden NFTs have become synonymous with something. I mean, if everyone's going to define what an NFT is. But we've been on a journey, and we've actually managed to bring on brands, and we've explained to them the benefits of NFTs. And one of the things that we've been doing is really helping them understand awareness of what it is and the benefits it can bring to them as a true digital asset that you can share. And so we've got a good team. We've been growing our marketplace, and as well as having a marketplace, we also focused on every touch point. So it's digital in terms of web, VR, AR, and 3D. If you have a digital NFT, you need to be able to touch it with every device. That's our attitude. So that's basically it.
That's so cool. Yeah, my name is Tracy. I'm from Toronto, where Ethereum started, so I was very fortunate to be part of that original team helping them launch back then. We actually had the first art gallery in Toronto in 2014. It was on Bitcoin, actually. You could purchase it with Bitcoin. It's a Bitcoin art gallery. And then through my company, Untraceable, I've done a lot of events, including where CryptoKitties launched, and just even 2 years ago, Futures Conference, where we had just about 4 different art galleries around the actual festivities. And then now I'm head of marketing at Zytara. And so what we do is we help big brands get into the space, specifically through NFTs and leveraging NFTs for their branding. So I'm excited to be on this panel. It's great people here. I think Ish is actually joined. If Ish audio rings in, we'll get him to jump in. But for now, like, why do we think it's important for brands to get into NFTs? And maybe guys can touch upon which ones maybe you've worked with in the past.
Yeah, I mean, I can jump in there. I mean,
yeah.
The key thing here is, like a Terra Virtua, we're speaking to people in movies, in sports, in games, and in music. And really a lot of it is relevance. I mean, even if you look at sports, I mean, people are more engaged with digital than they are with physical, especially a younger generation which is coming up. Like my oldest girl used to love, her favorite thing was a Jessie doll. And my youngest one wanted an iPad. Had no interest in physical toys. And brands need to appreciate the fact that the demographics that are consuming the products are shifting their behaviors, and they've got more of a leaning towards digital. So as a result of that, that means merch can go digital. So really NFTs brings that back to the brands, because in the past, digital assets have had no real inherent value. People just cut and paste objects. But knowing that a digital item can actually have a value and it can actually be resold, and for them, actually, the most important point being the fact that they can have royalties for primary and secondary sales. That's a lot of things that they've been trying to achieve for years and they've never done. The grey market's always been the pain in the backside. And for the fact that they can actually get paid for primary and secondary sales, not just brands, but creators, that's the biggest thing that we've been trying to educate the brands about.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, just sort of picking up on that. I mean, that's sort of kind of part of the long-term appeal of the space, right? It's like, okay, how can these brands like ours that have predominantly been in the lifestyle side sort of enter this digital space? Because it's one thing to transact in an e-commerce arena, right, where you're just using a Web2 product to purchase something that comes to your door, but to sort of take it to a next step is to interact with products like Terra, Virtua, and figure out how can I make my Brooks Brothers suit something that someone can wear on their avatar, which is all super exciting stuff.
That's really cool. It's interesting. You touched on so many points, I think. So one of them we touched on was merchandise. Let's talk quickly about merchandise and brands, because I found there's a few different ways that can happen. One, it's like you have a physical piece with a digital piece. Another one is, you put something in the actual, authenticating the Louis Vuitton so that it isn't on the black market. And then there's the whole like metaverse kind of side of it. Do you make these just NFTs that people can wear stuff digitally in a metaverse? What do you guys think? Where do you think the merchandise side's going next? I would say, it's already here.
I think there's going to be lots of innovation in merch. I mean, you're seeing stuff which is like, you can look at a trainer through your mobile phone, and then NFTable is like a display on it. You can have a Tesla, which has got a color scheme that you can see it. But like, effectively, what you can really do with digital merch is that you can find different channels of being able to take it out to the end user. And you can do things like get timely products out. And this is quite an important one, because normally when you have, let's say, Game of Thrones and it's going absolutely bananas, they think, oh, damn, we should have made more toys. Because there's just not enough time. There's not enough time to take it from production to distribution to getting it out. So normally whenever you've got a movie or whatever, there's a massive runtime in getting the merch out. Now, by having digital, you can do it really quickly. So you can actually have, let's say, a boxing match. You can drop merch in the boxing match. So I think there's innovation, but there's a big timeliness component that brands haven't been able to capitalize on things that are happening right now, generally. So they have to plan the event or create the buzz themselves. And that's really where brands are going to have an ability to do some really cool things.
That's interesting. I can resonate with that so much. So when we do our events, they're in these mega nightclubs, and you literally, for merch, you got to get an actual cage, and you got to zip tie T-shirts on a cage. And so you actually physically only have so much room on the cage. And if you're going to a rave, is it eye level, is it low level? But now with digital NFTs, the possibilities are endless. So it's not a little bit better. It's like 10x, 100x better. Pretty much what we're saying in terms of digital NFTs. Interesting. What are some current brands that you guys have worked with right now? They've helped get into the space.
I can go first. Yeah, I mean, so we own a portfolio of 50 plus brands. So we've sort of focused our efforts in the short run at onset with our entertainment IP. So we've brought Muhammad Ali into the space. We're actually launching our Marilyn Monroe NFT today on Mathrani.io, or otherwise you can access it by going to MarilynMonroeForever.com. That goes live at 1. And then we're rolling out a whole slew of entertainment assets going forward in the next coming months for some of our other IP. But with regards to the merch side of things, we are sort of, I think, going to try to start our hand with Judith Lieber and Juicy Couture, which are two of the brands that we control.
Cool.
And sort of go from there and see what happens as a result. And I think sort of back to what you were saying, Tracy, sort of experimenting with all sorts of the ideas in the space, so sort of having that digital and physical twin, selling it in more of a conventional marketplace-esque environment, as well as exploring some more radical initiatives of metaverse integrations that will come down the road.
Cool. You said two really cool things that perked my ears up for sure. So Marilyn Monroe, obsessed, and then Gucci Couture. So both very, especially the Juicy side, female-dominated brands, I would say. And without a doubt, although there's a lot more females in the blockchain cryptocurrency space, there just isn't as many men. How do you bridge that gap to make sure like the brand's client base is able to be able to purchase the NFT, know how to hold it, the security out of it? Like how do you create that education for the audience of the brands?
Yeah, I mean, so that kind of is the biggest question, right? So I'm happy you brought it up. And I think a lot of the creating awareness sort of comes through doing things like sending around videos or popularizing videos as to how one sets up with something like a MetaMask account, or trying to make things a little bit more communicative as to like what one's actually buying. But I think in the short run, when we're still in sort of the nascent element of this phase, where I think you find a lot of that loyal consumer base having a tough time wrap their head around like what is digital scarcity? Why is there value in assigning an NFT to something? I think a lot of the fallback, at least in the short run, has to come with sort of linking it to something of intrinsic value in the physical space, especially when you're talking about brands, right? Because when you're talking about a brand like a Juicy Couture tracksuit, metaverse, NFT, right? Like that's not something that one's going to really be purchasing with the
I will be,
intent.
but yeah.
Well, no, well,
It's true.
what I was saying is this: is one isn't going to be purchasing it as a speculative asset. One is going to be purchasing it because they want it to be a piece of clothing their avatar wears, right? So to sort of bridge that gap, you kind of have to be like, okay, how can I sort of make this purchase seem a little bit more tangible to people who wouldn't ordinarily understand it as such in a metaverse environment? And the answer, in my opinion, there is just by linking it to anything in the physical world, whether it's a product offering or a discount or early access to a sale of a new Juicy Couture charm or something like that. It's just like tying in the multiplicity of the brand across the digital and the physical.
Yeah, and I think also one of the things you touched on was that you've got to make it easy. Ultimately, in the crypto world, there's a lot of propensity for crypto companies to talk about the tech. End users don't care. All they want to know is that it works and that it's safe. And so even what we've done with us, we've created a pure fiat on-ramp. You don't need to know anything about crypto. Just go on with credit. Because ultimately, if you want to get to the mass market, granny needs to be able to buy something for a grandkid and not understand the first thing about it, but be able to buy it. So that whole simplicity of purchase and of understanding that they're just buying something which is digital is one of our things. Thinking is with brands, just don't explain the tech. No one cares. When you make an in-app purchase, you don't care about the tech that Apple's running, just that it works. And that's got to be part of the education. They need to understand the value of the asset and understand it's permanent. Those are the two things that people need to really understand. And the fact they can gift it or leverage, make money off it, just like a physical asset. And that's what's sort of lost. Right now, people are thinking about NFTs, about being these things which are 62 million or these massive drops that are done by big brands or celebrity. And that's sort of now a challenge because now there's more of an education in what an NFT isn't than what an NFT is. That used to be that conversation. And now it's not this at all. So that's the users that we educate now have got a different preconception. And that's a challenge in itself right now.
That's amazing. Yeah, I think that's why we've all done so well. And we were trying to bridge that gap, even trying to explain this to big brands. I know the ones that I've worked with, there's like so many levels and so much bureaucracy that it's trying to just really simplify the message to kind of everybody in the space. I guess, what are some other really cool ways that they've been using NFTs? So we've talked about merch. Let's talk about access for a second. Do you guys have any examples of, giving access to the brands or influencers?
Yeah, I mean, like ultimately, what we're seeing a lot of now with brands is that a lot of brands have used celebrity in the past to try to go ahead and sell what they have, but now the influencers can provide access in new ways as brand ambassadors that you haven't been able to before. And so, for example, I mean, let's say Top Gun 2 is coming out later this year. So one of the things that we can offer is in our club is allowing someone to actually go to the movie set and see things there and hang out and interact with the brand in new ways that's like movies. But then also, if you talk about boxing, it allows you to have exclusive access to experiences around it. And these are things that money can't buy. And effectively, they're hard things that brands have been able to connect their audience with. So that's really, you can actually buy rights to that by engaging as a fan. And also with celebrity tokens that you're seeing loads of, that's allowing another way for people to interact with their brands and celebrities in a way they haven't before. I'm sure Saheer does a lot of that sort of stuff.
I mean, I couldn't agree with or more with every word that just came out of your mouth. But I think above and beyond that, right, thinking about, especially as it pertains to merchandise brands, right, I think the access, you can take it a step further as opposed to just being some like something that you can like go into the set of a movie or something like that, right? I think the way you're going to see this playing out, particularly with your higher touch point brands, is that you will have these NFT sales as it pertains to certain assets where purchase of an NFT for a particular brand gets you access to a more limited release of an article of clothing, whether that article of clothing is digital or physical, right? You can really use it to incentivize participation as a way to sort of get to a point where one can purchase the asset they actually want and sort of gamify the whole experience.
Super cool. Yeah, right now we're dropping the Floyd Mayweather NFT, and the access you're going to get are boxing lessons, probably boxing lessons with him. You're going to get, Night on the Town with you and 3 friends, as well as physical pieces like a diamond jewelry ring and a massive digital artwork. So it's quite interesting. What do we think about big? So we've talked about, I guess when it started, I see it started a lot of collectibles, people trying to generate revenue. Then it started becoming brand recognition. Do you think a lot of these NFTs are going to go into the supply chain side of it? Making sure that their clothing isn't from a sweatshop, or making sure it's
Yeah, no, definitely. In fact, even the authentication piece is going to be very, very important, because ultimately, if you look at every brand, they spend millions of dollars in multiple territories every year to teach people what's a fake and is not a fake, and they do sting operation with the police. Even with Dubai, they do that. And if you can authenticate it right from the get-go and have a digital twin, all of a sudden you're going into a whole new space. So that's these are some of the things we've been working with Polygon and Casper Labs on, because with Casper, one of the things that they're really looking at is corporate level support. And brands, the thing about blockchain is that when you release a blockchain, you sort of push it out into the sea. But if you've got a blockchain which has got like corporate support, then brands will engage with them, because they worry about the blockchain generally not being supported by a legitimate company. You know what I mean? Rather than an offsuit idealistic little software house, have a more corporate spin on it. So I think digital authentication is going to be a big thing, and that's going to lead to value of the item if it's got a digital twin as well. At least that's my view.
I have a question for you guys, actually. So obviously there's a tremendous appeal to attaching certain physical perks to NFTs, right? So to use the Floyd Mayweather example, right? It's like the NFT gets you access to boxing lessons with him. To what extent do you think that sort of that level of like such a unique and hard to access physical offering sort of distorts the value of the NFT as it pertains to the secondary market, right? Because if someone's paying, let's say, $5 million for a lesson with Floyd Mayweather, and then the second buyer who buys that NFT after the fact obviously doesn't get that same perk, like what does that do to the value of the asset?
Yeah, definitely. It's a great question. I think everyone's structuring it a bit differently. I find what's happening more and more now are there these actual, like different layers of actual products that are coming out that allow you to redeem it easier. And so I think just because we're so early on in the NFT space, we're working with a company, Nifty Labs and stuff that are help you redeem things easier and help you actually go and continue that access if that's what's needed to be. I think some have to do with, the actual collectible digital art. And then there's also the tiered approach. So, they put an intrinsic value on the actual NFT, but if it reaches $1 million, then you get the boxing lessons, things like that. So there's different ways to go about it. Definitely the access is something to think about. And that also comes with physical, right? Like if Louis Vuitton makes a bag and attaches the authenticated bag with the NFT, do you have to keep reselling the bag with it? So it's something I think that's here to overcome.
Yeah, I think you've got things that have got asset value and things which have got intrinsic value, which is experience linked to it. And the ones that have experience linked to them, they're never going to have the same level of resale that something which is a digital asset, which is based around like a good piece of art, where this artist has generated this much revenue over time. And I think there's going to be like different types of value pegged for NFTs according to whether they're linked to a physical asset, linked to an experience, or whether they're a digital asset in its own right. I think you're going to have multiple classes within NFTs, and that's the interesting part of this space. We're really just coming into it. And the type of utilities you're going to have around the digital item, they're going to be multiple types.
Mm-hmm. The other thing too is I think a lot of brands really want to step away from thinking about secondary market because it gives them in a different realm of like regulation. And, sometimes they want to avoid that, and so adding access helps as well with that.
Yeah, but we have found that when we're dealing with brands, especially like music studios and movie studios, the thought of getting secondary revenues, they love it because that's an area they've never been able to get into, especially when it comes to things like music and film and even graphic novels. I mean, people trade them and there's a massive grey market that they never get access to. And if they can take a slice, they love that.
100%. Let's talk about that. Well, that's what makes it so innovative, right? That's really the extra part of it. You talked about musical and Hollywood. Do you find those the two biggest?
Well, look, sort of our philosophy is that right now a lot of people are looking at celebrity, they're looking at artwork, but actually a lot of people are talking about that because you've already got examples of that. But if you think about things like graphic novels were out forever. Okay, then Amazon came along and they all are now on Amazon, and you can sort of rent them and you have them on your Kindle. But what we've done last week, for example, we launched the world's first proper NFT graphic novel, and that's an artist who spent 2 years painting it. And when you buy the NFT and you go through the pages, you can skim through layers. So basically, what you can find is that you can bring digital assets back to customers in a new way. And when you look at these sort of things, I mean, music, where I believe the biggest growth areas are going to be, yes, I believe fashion will be a place and art, but I think music, books, and movies are the three biggest plays, and gaming, of course. And everything else is there. But even if you look at gaming alone, gaming captures more revenue than all the others combined. But the nice thing about what we're doing with NFTs is that you can bridge all the genres all in one go. So when you've got a piece of digital merch, Saheer, on your side, it can connect to a movie and a piece of music and to this in ways it could never before. And that way you sort of can make the whole thing like a vertical connection.
Very cool. What are you most excited about in the space of NFTs coming up?
I mean, just to share innovation in the field. I mean, like every day something new is coming in. So right now, every day there's a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, I guess I'm the most interested in some of the more interesting art things that are coming out of the space, just at a personal level. I think that you're starting to see some artists, specifically in the generative and AI space, using the smart contract and the Solidity code as their paint and canvas to sort of portray these certain really interesting pieces of art. So think like autoglyphs, for example, are the ones that are sort of popping off the most right now. And I think actually Sotheby's is going to be releasing a sale in a couple days called Natively Digital that sort of brings a lot of this art to the forefront. And I think that as we see that aspect of the space sort of emerge, you'll see this definition or sort of bifurcation of the field into that which is art, fine art, and that which sort of uses the NFT to ascribe some sort of real value, as Jawad and all of us have sort of been discussing, right? The access, the digital physical pairings, where you can sort of get away from that. The question that I asked, even sort of like, how does that sort of distort the value of an asset? Well, it won't distort the value of an asset, right? Because it's just using this technology for two radically different uses. And that's sort of what's most exciting to me. What about you, Tracy?
Yeah, it's interesting. You talked about Solidity. You talked about which, if any other big brands that they're watching, that's on the Ethereum blockchain. Like, how do brands pick what blockchain they want to use? Is it always just going to be Ethereum? Is it Ethereum to the moon?
It's going to be quantity and supply, isn't it? Because like right now it's sort of so expensive.
Yeah.
Right now it's more a case of which is the best L2 solution to use. And that's why like everyone. Like right now, pretty much every DeFi project you can imagine is moved over to Polygon because, like, essentially, even when we mint, let's say that we mint something and it's a $10 item. If it costs $20 in transaction fees, it makes no sense. And for brands, you need to go.
Yeah, I was just going to say, to your point, though, right? The fact that you said that it's not a question as to what you're using, but what layer 2 you're using, I think indicates sort of the strength of Ethereum in the long run, right? Because people are opting for layer 2 solutions like Polygon, like Immutable X, because they sort of, brands do believe that Ethereum in the long run is the one that's going to win out, right? You don't see many people building on Flow or Cardano right now for that very reason.
Without a doubt. I always say with Ethereum, when you go to the DevCon conferences and there's 10,000 developers, no other blockchain can put that together. But without a doubt, I think when it comes to brands and promotion, Ethereum won't be the gas fees are just too high, even with the layer 2 solutions like Polygon or what is known as Matic. It's going to be tough. So I think there are some upcoming blockchains for sure going to maybe take over that space.
I don't know. I would push back there and say that like in with the looming like EIP 1559 and then the eventual transition to Ethereum 2.0, right? I think that obviously it's a race to see who can get there first. Right? If someone else can get there faster than Ethereum, maybe they'll win out. But just because of their sheer market cap and volume, right? I do think that it is kind of the place to be if you're a brand trying to exist to the fullest extent in the space right now.
every L2 is really like a shard at the moment. I mean, Polygon are different in that they've got different blockchains for different types of use case, because one blockchain isn't fit for all use cases.
Totally.
But I think it will be a bloodbath eventually once Ethereum really gets once it really gets into its own and all the shards are operating. It's going to make a lot of L2 solutions redundant, and people are going to go straight back to Ethereum, I think.
Yeah, definitely. No, I've seen Ethereum grow. I've helped Ethereum grow since the beginning. So it's been a roller coaster ride without a doubt.
Tracy, just a question for you, right?
Yeah.
Because obviously you work sort of independently as a third party, working with other brands, right? Trying to help them enter into this space. So what do you see as sort of the foremost, I guess, first of all, the foremost epistemic challenges, like trying to convince people that it's something to do? And then two, like, what do you see brands opting for in the immediate right now?
Yeah, I think the biggest one is educating on the blockchain side of it. You know, having credit card as a payment is probably extremely important. We haven't hit the bridge yet of once they have their NFT, what wallets it on. So it's great that they have a credit card, but I live through Mt. Gox. I've lived through almost every single hack that's ever happened in crypto. So it's like, I understand that something bad will happen one day, and have we educated new brands to come out to say, you have to take it off your MetaMask, you have to put this somewhere else. So I think that's a fundamental. It's going to hurt eventually the space, unfortunately. So we all the brands need to educate. I think the hard thing, honestly, is, you know, when you're talking to an audience, when you're talking to a Juicy Couture audience or even a Floyd Mayweather audiences, do they fundamentally know how to get Ethereum? Do they know how to store it? And that's why I think the marketplace is important to it right now. But it's exciting. Like, I think everyone's trying a different way of doing it. The other thing with crypto is like the price fluctuation. So, you know, a month ago, everybody was like, Rich, you know what? I want my whole wallet to be digital collectibles. And then there's a bloodbath one day, and they, you know, why did I buy all that? So it's like, I think that's always understanding the right timing in the space is really difficult.
One thing sorry to interrupt, but one thing I can throw in there, this was linked to what you said, is that what we found is that when we talk to brands, I mean, even like Warner Bros., etc., they don't like companies that do NFTs where you use your token as a form of currency, just because of that fluctuation.
Yeah.
Because the end consumer gets confused. Yeah. So it's for them to really be able to understand and trade these things, they've got to have the equivalent of a stable coin of some sort. Totally. Otherwise, completely makes them not understand what they're buying or the intrinsic value of it.
Exactly.
Just touching upon this.
For sure. Even the physical side of it, right? It's like confusing. It's like, oh my gosh, I was supposed to give something with it. Like I was on my Instagram. I always so interested in my ads because I feel like I'm a different demographic than a lot of people in crypto. So I got Real Housewives in New Jersey NFT ad to me the other day. I'm like, I must be one of the only people in the world right now getting it, like a new, right? And again, it was like, I understood it, but I'm like, I don't think most of her audience would have understood it and kind of the way she did it. So I think we have to keep the education going, and like you said, things about stable coins and trying to make sure that is all worked out, because I do think adding a physical side to it is the future in a lot of ways, and definitely the supply chain side of it. Brands spend so much money saying this is organic, this is free range eggs, this is like so much branding and money, carbon offsets, like that. You know, it could easily be solved with the blockchain and verified. So this seems to be where it's all going. It's just not as sexy as like a
exactly.
million.
I mean, they're already doing it on medical supply chains to basically medicine from there to the shelf.
Yeah,
it's the same thing will reapplied. But yeah, people will want it.
Yeah, the future of NFTs is like the unsexy stuff, unfortunately. we'll throw in some Marilyn Monroe. So talk to me a bit about Marilyn Monroe and a drop. How's that going?
It's going well. I mean, the drop goes live in an hour and a half. So 1 p.m. So we're selling 11 one-of-one NFTs at 1 p.m. on June 1st, which is the 95th anniversary of Marilyn Monroe's birthday. I don't know why I said anniversary. I should have just said birthday.
Yeah.
Me thinking in the French in my head for a second or something there. But we essentially chose to work with 11 different artists who we were all super excited to work with. We were kind of pushing the bounds not only of what is artistically possible in the NFT space, but also those who are sort of predominantly working in this futuristic style, because our whole thought process is right. Marilyn Monroe is one of the most influential pop icons of the past, of the 20th century, and this NFT space is sort of an opportunity for any celebrity or legacy figure to sort of propel themselves into the future and propel themselves into the future forever, because the blockchain never changes. So I'd entreat you to go check out the work on the website. Again, it's MarilynMonroeForever.com. The sale will be open for 72 hours and bid on the pieces that catch your eye. We're working with a whole host of super talented artists, from Blake Cadman to Jason Evier to many, many more. And super excited to see what happens, not only with this, but with everything that comes going forward.
Awesome. Okay, I think we're at the final question. So if you guys want to give like your final point, as well as, you know, if we had to do this in 1 year from now, NFT Summit, we're back on a panel again. What do we think will be the hottest thing in NFT in exactly 1 year from now? What's your prediction?
Oh, that's a tricky one. I think fashion and celebrity will have likely really got more mature in the way that things happen. I think there's going to be the biggest achievement will be that there'll be a big understanding from the mass market of how NFTs have got multiple types of utility. To me, that's going to be the most exciting thing in the market, that people will actually understand and just take for granted the fact that these things are now a new type of asset class that they can that just own and do something with. That acceptance, to me, is the most exciting thing, the next piece of technical innovation. Because if you innovate and you don't have that acceptance, that's the least exciting thing. No one buys into what you've got. Saheer?
Yeah, I think it's DAOs every step of the way. I think the biggest pain point of the NFT space right now is that the curation across the board is too centralized. I think you'll see, as people sort of understand that NFTs are sort of these things that you attach to digital assets to ascribe value and scarcity, as opposed to an NFT being a thing in and of itself. You're going to sort of have people starting to understand that it's a little problematic and against the ethos to have a small group of 3, 4, 5 people on each platform choosing what pieces of art are featured where or what's being sold when. I think once people come to that understanding, DAOs are just going to blow up, because it gives the user base the ability to make these decisions. And I think that really is the future.
Awesome. Yeah. And I guess for me, I have to say probably the expansion of fungible and non-fungible tokens. So fan tokens, social tokens, and how it's all going to kind of work together, all accumulated in one. I think the brands have all loved the NFTs now, but wait till they learn about fungible tokens and what they can do with that for themselves too. So I'm also excited for the supply chain side. I think one day you'll be able to get an egg and realize what chicken it came from. So I have thought to get it. So we'll see where that goes. But guys, thank you so much for joining me. I hope to see you all in Miami if possible. Come check out my Floyd Mayweather talk on stage. And we're excited it was really a pleasure having you guys.
Pleasure to meet you both as well.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.